Chris Lynch and Canterbury Mornings. Entertaining, informing and fighting for Canterbury. Weekday mornings on News Talk ZB.
You've worked here in communications, it is, for a long time. How many years has that been?
Well, I've been in the police just over 42 years. I joined when I was 7. I was picked out of primary school. They saw the potential and I went from there. But as far as comms, I started here in 96. My background was CIB, serious crime, and I came here for 12 months. And I'm still here. I like it, it's interesting, it's exciting, it's challenging, I've got great staff, and we're making a difference to the community.
You are. What people don't realise is that the Communications Centre in Christchurch, it's manned 24/7, it's a major operation. It is essentially responsible for keeping the police units at various jobs, not only in Christchurch but around the South Island. It is a major communications centre, isn't it?
It is. We've got, the primary role is actually protecting the public, we've got 4 communication centres, 2 in Auckland, 1 in Wellington, 1 in Christchurch. We answer telephone calls virtually, which means that you ring 111 for an emergency. The first available operator in Wellington, Auckland or Christchurch will answer your call, and using our mapping system it'll go in and it'll go then to the right dispatcher in the right communication centre, who will then send the right police resource or other emergency services resource to the location.
What I always find interesting, and I've been to the Communications Centre before, but even when it's a lovely, sunny Christchurch day, the amount of incidents that police are involved in that the media don't always hear about, or the general public, is quite phenomenal, isn't it? While it can be a nice Christchurch sunny day, there can be some really serious stuff happening in our city and around New Zealand. Dead
right. We're taking just on 2 million calls a year. People do get themselves into bother. Things do go wrong, things break down, and police help or other emergency services help is required at various times. And it sort of ramps up to the weekend where it becomes probably a bit more towards the alcohol-fueled type of issues that we deal with. And then during the week, it sort of quietens back down again. The quieter shifts are probably Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, night shifts, a lot quieter. People are actually trying to catch up on their sleep after a big weekend.
Which gives the comm staff a bit of a break, I'd imagine. What sort of person do you reckon it takes to be either a communications officer, taking the direct line of contact from the public who may be in all sorts of serious situations, right through to the person responsible for dispatching police units to help, in some cases, save lives?
It takes someone who's got a bit of sense of humour, because some of the calls we deal from the sublime to the ridiculous, but at the same time someone who's got a can-do attitude, who can actually roll with the flow, who can actually think quickly on their feet, who obviously is not going to get fazed by some of the stuff they're going to deal with, who can be responsive, professional, and obviously give assistance as and when required. So you're really looking for a person that you can't train them for. You can't obviously get a degree in it. It's common sense is a big one, it's a big requirement, plus also resilience as well. You've got to be a very resilient person because you're working shifts. Some of the stuff you deal with is very, very difficult.
Because for many people, the police communications are the first point of contact for an emergency, and it's a big ask to be dealing with saving lives at the end of a telephone when you probably hear sometimes what the worst of society has to offer you, to sometimes, as you say, the more light-hearted stuff. It's across the board, isn't it?
It is exactly. Well, you can, any shift you do not know what calls you're going to take, so you can take a serious crime call. It could be a homicide, it could be a major fatality, and the next phone call could be the theft of someone's prized garden gnome. And so, as I said, you go from the sublime to the ridiculous.
You get the ridiculous a bit?
We do get the ridiculous a bit. We've had some classic calls over the years. I think I mentioned in the past the bride who was on the way to the church got oil on the frock, called us up and asked how she could sort that. We've had the runaway bride, and that was her hen's night. A group of the girlfriends decided to ring up and ask us for some handcuffs so they could chain her up. Now I'm not too sure whether they wanted to make sure she got to the service or whether she behaved herself at 3 o'clock in the morning. But most of the calls, that's the minority. Most of the calls are genuine emergencies, i.e. that people, a police response or emergency service response is required to protect life and property, and an immediate response is required. And that's the basis of an emergency 111 call. I'm going to introduce you now to the shift commander and get Alan to explain what his duties are and what his role is in here, because he's basically, he's got overall control of the whole operation, and we have 3 shift commanders per day covering the different shifts. Alan.
Hi, Alan Weston, I'm the shift commander working here today. We process probably 500 to 800 calls through the centre per shift. We're basically the risk managers for the South Island, so we're looking at everything from serious crime to traffic, stock on the road, general thefts, burglaries, anything that happens in the 10-hour shift that we work. We're basically covering off those events and making sure the correct resources and people are deployed to manage those.
And I see you've got a lot of computers there, screens.
Oh yes, we oversee about 6 telephone lines. We've got our CAD machine, which is the computer-assisted dispatch system that we use, so that we can make sure that all the resources are deployed and keep an eye on what's happening throughout the South Island.